What's going on, Vol fans? Welcome back into Tennessee Football Talk. My name is Joey Petersen. It has been a busy day for the Tennessee Volunteers. As we covered earlier this morning, the addition of Donovan Haslam. Since that video has come out, they've added 3 more players in the transfer portal. We're going to break down those players, tell you why you should be excited, and then speaking about being excited, we talked about Arion Carter withdrawing his name from the NFL draft, entering the transfer portal. Tennessee is back in the fold for their starting Mike linebacker in the 2025 season. We'll tell you what Steve Wiltfong had to say about that, and then we're going to round out with some unfortunate news about Aaron Scott Jr., where he's going to be playing his football in 2026. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. We are so close to 12,000 subscribers. Let's try to get there by the end of the day. If you have not joined us yet, it's free daily content on the Tennessee Vols. $0, 0 cents. That's all it costs to hit that subscribe button. All right, let's start off with Javin Gordon. How about that? The running back from Tulane, over 500 yards from scrimmage last year. 4 or 5 touchdowns scored as well for the Green Wave. We knew that running back was never going to be a flashy addition in the transfer portal. You're never going to get a running back that had over 1,000, 1,200 yards, even if it was at the G5 level, because face it, ladies and gentlemen, whoever you brought in next to be the running back on this team, what they knew is they weren't going to be the running back one because you already had one. And so we brought in a ton of guys on visits that had unbelievable years either in the Power 4 or at the G5. And I got excited about bringing those guys in, but then you also had to be realistic of they've got opportunities elsewhere, most likely in the transfer portal, to be teams' number 1 backs, and that was never going to be the case at Tennessee. So Javin Gordon comes in from Tulane. There's a lot to like about this kid. Great contact balance, pretty great speed. I tweeted out a video earlier on social media. You could see his burst and acceleration after he makes it to that second level. All things to be really excited about. You knew after Peyton Lewis left and Star Thomas's eligibility ran out, you needed another back in the backfield along with Bishop and Dwayne Morse. Okay, so Javin Gordon, you should be excited about that addition. I am as well. Let's talk about Tevis Metcalf. He is the younger brother of TJ Metcalf, the safety out of Michigan you added in the transfer portal at the beginning of this week. They followed each other wherever they've gone to college, started their career, both of them in Arkansas. Then they both transferred, spent a season in Ann Arbor. Obviously, new coaching regime there. They hit the transfer portal. Now they're both coming to Knoxville, Tennessee. Now, TJ Metcalf is going to be a day 1 starter and day 1 impact player for the Tennessee Volunteers. I'm not going to be able to say the same about Tevis Metcalf. He's going to be one of those kids, though, that's just a really solid depth piece and somebody that's going to be great to have in rotation. We know your starting quarterbacks are going to be Kayan Lee, 3-year starter from Auburn coming to Tennessee. Ty Redmond, who's going to take that step from year 1 to year 2 in this Tennessee defense. And then Quay Moss, he's going to be your nickelback, the transfer from Kansas State. But what did we know last year? What did we see last year? Depth in the cornerback room is something that's very important because Ricky Gibson plays 1 half. We don't see him the rest of the season. So adding guys like Tevis Metcalf, it might not be a massive, flashy story of hey, let's sound the alarm bells. Let's go live on the YouTube channel right now. You just got a season-changing player, but it's just solid depth that Michael Hunter can continue to coach in these position groups, and you can feel good about these players if an injury does happen. The last transfer portal addition that we're going to talk about is Trent Thomas, tight end out of the University of South Alabama. You needed bodies in that room, plain and simple. You got Luka Wolf coming in, 3-star tight end in the 2026 class. You got Ethan Davis and Deshaun Brom already in the tight end room. But once JVD left, hit the portal, and went to Oklahoma, you just needed somebody. Look, I feel confident in Brom and Davis in your 12 personnel sets, right? 2 tight ends on the field. However, we know that Tennessee does run 13 personnel from time to time, or heavy personnel with 3 tight ends in there. I'd like to have a guy that I feel confident in, and that is Trent Thomas. Again, kind of similar to Metcalf. He's not going to be one of those game-changing players. He's not going to be a season-changing player, but he's a guy that's going to give you depth in a very important position to this Tennessee offense. So those are your 3 additions. You added 4 total today. I believe that puts this class up to 14 or 15. And I'll tell you this right now, I don't really expect much more. I expect a quarterback from some level, most likely FCS, and that's pretty much it. Like, I would not be surprised if this class rounds out just with what we've got right now. And if that's the case, I really think quarterback was the only miss in this roster. They made it obvious they wanted to hit big with quarterback, bidding on Sam Leavitt, bidding on Ty Simpson. They didn't hit that, but hey, they believe in George McIntyre, believe he can be QB1 going into this season. In fact, I say it might be the last edition, these guys. It actually might not be, because you might be getting a guy back that you did not think would be back in the fold, because originally you thought he'd be going to the NFL draft. Of course, I'm talking about Arion Carter. The news came out late last night that Arion Carter is withdrawing his name from the NFL draft and entering the transfer portal. And we actually discussed it earlier today, and I said, look, it makes a lot of sense, because you didn't think you'd have Carter back. So what you went ahead and did, you got Amari Campbell, you replaced him positionally, and you used that money that you were paying Arion Carter to spread it out either to guys you wanted to keep on the roster, like the Ty Redmonds, Braylon Staley's, Deshaun Bishops, or those new guys that you're bringing in, like his replacement, Amari Campbell. So his starting position no longer there, and his money, NIL money, no longer there as well. So, it made sense to me that he was entering the transfer portal. Well, he might be coming back to Tennessee. Steve Wiltfong released an article just about an hour ago and said, when Arion Carter decided on Friday night to pull his name from the NFL draft and enter the transfer portal, the Tennessee linebacker did so with plans of enrolling elsewhere for his final season of college football. But Josh Heupel and the Vols are doing what they can to make Carter reconsider and return to Knoxville. Heupel had several conversations with Carter, also has talked with his parents Saturday. A source with knowledge tells On3 Tennessee is now, quote, up first before Carter explores other potential options. Quote, Heupel has invested hours, the source said, over the last 24 hours. It's Heupel spearheading this. Not William Inge, it's Josh Heupel. Not Jim Knowles, it's Josh Heupel. And I've got multiple thoughts on this, okay? Thought number one is this really excites me. Look, I talked this morning about how I think Amari Campbell might be a more well-rounded linebacker than Arion Carter is, but I never threw any kind of shade on the player that Arion was, because he was phenomenal. He was a great linebacker, tackling machine, tough as nails. He was a leader of this defense, right? Now, it wasn't a good defense, but he was the leader of the defense. And so if he comes back in the fold and wants to play another year for Tennessee, that's something I'm going to be excited about. It'd be interesting to see where he carves himself out a role, though. I would imagine it's just going to be him and Amari Campbell as the starting two linebackers. I'm curious how that affects guys like Jaden Perlotti and Edwin Spillman, two younger guys that I was really excited to see kind of get back in the mix, get back in the fold, in 2026, kind of take a step up. But, if Josh Heupel is spearheading this, which I also really, really like, that Heupel's passionate about this, it's obvious Heupel wants Arion Carter back in Knoxville because the leader, the player that he is, then I'm going to be all for it, okay? I really, really like that your head coach is out there making moves. He's trying to make something happen in this vicinity with this certain player. So, obviously, he feels like they're going to be able to kind of navigate everything very, very smoothly with the current depth that you've got in this linebacker room. If you do get Arion Carter back, I think linebacker is probably your strongest position group on each side of the football, and I don't even know if it's relatively close, okay? So I'd be all for getting Arion Carter back, but hey, he's going to give Tennessee the chance, give him one last pitch. I'm curious how the money's all going to end up, because I am very, very confident they've spent it already, because if they hadn't, that would have been stupid. Right, he goes to the NFL draft. You're not just going to sit on his money and be like, oh, well, maybe he'll come back or not. No, that's dumb. If they would have done that and then he wouldn't have come back, we all would have thought that was the dumbest thing ever to do that in the first place. So they haven't sat out on his money. They've spent it. I'm curious how that's going to all end up. Lastly, before we get out of here, Aaron Scott Jr. has committed to Oregon. That was the leader going into today. I said I thought we'd have some sort of news on Aaron Scott Jr. Unfortunately, it is bad news, ladies and gentlemen. Look, he's going to go somewhere where he can most likely be a starter day one, and that wouldn't have been the case with Tennessee. Sure, he was a highly rated prospect, but Ty Redmond's going to be a starter, and Kayan Lee's a 3-year starter in the SEC already. You told him he was probably going to be a starter at Tennessee as well. You can't have 3 starting outside boundary corners. Really thought this was going to be a cool time for Michael Hunter to showcase something, show us something really cool. Jim Knowles brought you over from Ohio State. You're not a assistant coach anymore. You're a position coach now. Go out and make a big move, make a big statement. He didn't. I'm not faulting him for it, but it would have been a cool opportunity for him to, kind of just showcase him making a big move early on to him being a position coach. That's going to do it for today's show. Most likely going to do 2 videos tomorrow, but I'll kind of wake up, set the alarm, judge how the news is rolling in early in the morning. Wouldn't be surprised if I just get you one, but most likely expect 2. I promised you 2 during transfer portal season. Portal closed late last night, but guess what? If news is coming, I'm going to be hitting it right here on the channel. Make sure you subscribe, follow me on socials, and we'll see you tomorrow.